Hi guys, Jill here with Whispering Willow Farm. Today I'm going to share with you the best seed starting system I have ever used. It is guaranteed to bring success because it takes all of the guesswork out of it. I talk to a lot of people and the census is that seed starting can be super overwhelming. Either you don't know when to start your things, you're not sure how many you should be starting, you're not sure the supplies that you need on hand to start your seeds, and you end up either overplanting, underplanting, or going into the season without a plan, and it is greatly going to affect the success and the yield that you're able to bring from your garden. So I'm going to share with you my system. It's tried and true. I've done this for several years now and it has proven to be successful, and my hope is that it will prove to bring success to you too. Let's get started. Alright, so before we dive into the nitty-gritty of this amazing system I have here behind me, there's a couple things you need to know and do before we get to this part, okay? One is knowing your estimated last frost. If you do not know this just by heart, a quick Google search is going to lend you some help. You can do it by your zip code or your city. Secondly, you are going to need to have ordered all of your seeds for the season. So if you have not started rummaging through those seed catalogs, I've got a video on how to shop a seed catalog I'll put up here and you guys can go check out. But once you know your estimated last frost, you've ordered your seeds, you've gotten them in, there's only a few other supplies you're going to need. That would be a pen, some post-it notes, and some rubber bands. You can get by doing this system pretty quickly. Now, I do have a dry erase board that I like to keep out in my greenhouses for quick reference. This is not a necessity for a success of the system. I do also jot all of this information down into an Excel spreadsheet so I can reference year after year. However, I do not like bringing my laptop out into a hot high tunnel, you know, all year long by water, sun, all the things. So I do like to put it on a dry erase board just so I can bring it out there once I get them started, you know, I can mark them off, etc. So once you have those few things marked off your list and you've got them all ready, your seeds have come in, and now we get to start implementing the best system ever. I will tell you on the front end of this, if this is your first time implementing a system like this on your farm and for your gardens, it's going to take a little bit of time, but once you have invested that time the first time, season after season, it's plug and play. This will save you so much time years from now, seasons from now. So just remember that when you're putting in a little bit of that sweat equity on the front end. Granted, if you're growing a small garden, this will not take you that long. Here on our farm, we are starting thousands of seeds. So this takes us a little bit of time, but once we have the system, we have it, and it's plug and play, you know, year after year. So let me show you how we do it. First up, I grab my calendar, I go to the date, which is my estimated last frost, and I jot that down. So April 8th is my estimated last frost. Any sort of calendar would work. I'm just using my planner here, but when you are planning out when you need to start your seeds, which we'll talk about here in a second, this is crucial. You can use your phone, you can use, you know, paper calendar, planner, whatever, but you are gonna have to be able to go through and count back to know when we need to be starting all of these things. Another thing that I do is I start my seeds every single Friday. There is no science to this except this is the day that I have free. Every other day is allotted to a different chore on the farm. So I've got my seeding days every Friday. You can choose any day you want, but once I know my estimated last frost, when I'm gonna have to be starting my first round of seeds, I go in and I write every single Friday down on paper. So you guys can see here, we start at January 20th. And we go all the way to May 19th, which it'll keep going on the next page into April as well. All right, now here's the part some of you guys may not love. You're gonna take all of your seeds and you're gonna group them together by varieties, all right? So you're gonna put all your tomatoes together, all your peppers, all your cucumbers, your zinnias, herbs, etc., all right? And so once you have all that clear, now we start getting to dissect that. I'm not actually grouping these when they go onto my system in tomatoes, peppers, etc. I'm grouping them together by what I'm starting that day, which is going to vary. More than likely you will be starting all your tomatoes on the same time, but you might also be starting, you know, something else with those tomatoes. And so what you're gonna do is you're gonna flip to the back of your seed packet, all right? And so this seed packet here, which is for Black-Eyed Susan, which is Rudbeckia is the technical name for that. And it says start seeds indoors 8 to 10 weeks before estimated last frost. So when you've looked at the back of that seed packet and it's telling you when you should be starting it, give yourself a little grace. If it says 8 to 10 weeks, I'm usually always starting 10 weeks prior to give myself, you know, a couple weeks of a buffer, whether weather drops, whether we have, for us, we're in Arkansas, we have hailstorms. I like to just give myself a couple weeks buffer. So you go on your calendar, whatever you're using, you find that estimated last frost on here, and you're gonna start counting back. So I'm gonna count back 10 weeks, all right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that would have me starting it on January 27th, all right? And so I'm gonna put that seed in a pile. And then I'm gonna keep going and reading all of these, and I'm gonna start grouping all of these in a pile based off of the seeding date that I've given myself. Like I mentioned, this is the time-consuming part depending on how many things you are growing. This takes me a couple hours to do because we are growing many things. But once I did that system the first time, I never really had to do it again unless I was adding a few different varieties. So here I had a pile of all my January 20th seeds. Then I had 27th, then I had February 3rd, February 10th, and all I do is just stick a post-it note on it. So I group them together. So we've got lavender, we've got eucalyptus, I've got echinacea, rutabacia. So I've got some of my flowers that take a bit longer, but primarily these are herbs that need to be started. So I threw a post-it note on it with a date. I'm rubber banding it. And then I throw it in a clear photo container. And the reason that I do that is because I want this as easy as possible on me to take out into the greenhouse. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close it in there, and I'm gonna see on January 20th, I'm just grabbing this one little seed packet, taking with me to the greenhouse, and I'm ready to go, and so on and so forth. So I'll show you guys kind of how I have it laid out. So I only brought a few out here to show you guys, but we've got our January 20th, our 27th, 3rd, 10th, 17th. Now something I do as well is I'll group out, this is our February 24th, quite a big stack, but then I also sell plants to sell. So this is February 24th, but it's plant sale. And so you might ask, well, why would you separate those? They need to be started at the same time. They do, but the things that I'm starting on my farm, I start in soil blocks and up pot. And I know that these I'm probably going to be starting in different containers because I can't sell soil blocks. It has to be in an actual container. So although I might actually start these in soil blocks and continue to up pot them and eventually up pot them in a container, I know that they're going to spend or need to spend more time in a container developing roots, you know, to be able to sell versus these that, you know, might just be in soil blocks, etc. So these are just different notes I leave myself. You might leave yourself different notes. So once you've got all of this system done, now we get to start plugging and playing it into our seed starting dry erase board and our Excel spreadsheet. So the only thing that's different about my Excel spreadsheet versus the system you see behind me is that I'm going in and putting variety, and you will just see crop here. The reason I'm putting variety on my Excel spreadsheet is that's where I'm doing my notes. That's when I can go in and say, hey, you know, I grew this orange thyme and it did absolutely horrible. I'm not gonna grow that again. Maybe next year I'm gonna try just a traditional thyme, you know, or maybe I'm just gonna take out thyme altogether and try to replace that with a different woody herb. And so that's just an opportunity for me to go in and jot down some detailed notes when I get ready to start seeds again. I'll go back and reference that spreadsheet to know what I liked and I didn't like, so I can know if I need to continue to buy that or switch out to a new variety. All right, but here she is in all her beauty. I do have the glass dry erase boards. I'll find them and link them below. I like them better. They're gonna hold up a lot better, especially if you're putting them out in a high tunnel or a greenhouse just with the elements, all right? And so I'm gonna actually come behind the camera and show you guys how we have set this up. So we just use a level to create our straight boards, nothing fancy here. We do have everything color coordinated, which I'll kind of dive into that in a minute, but let's take a look. All right, so you can see here at the top, we have it categorized into crop, seeding date, size, and this is the size that I intend to start. So whatever containers, so you know, I've got mini blocks on here. You could be using the 2.5 inch bootstrap pots. You could be doing these in 72 cell, 50 cell, etc. The number, so this is how many I need to start. Here are some abbreviations. We have TP, which means transplant, and DS, which is direct seed. And then we have the location, which is telling us where these are going to go. The reason this is the best system you'll ever use for seed starting is because it takes all the guesswork out. I can look on here and I can know what I need to start, when I need to start it. I can know what size trays need to be sanitized and ready to go. I can also know if, you know, that day, I can look weeks prior and say, oh, well, I'm direct seeding this, so I'm going to give myself 2 weeks to be able to flip them in that bed. So you're not ever questioning what you need to do. You're never getting behind because the system is laid out so clear that you know literally months in advance what you should be doing, what you need to have prepared and on hand to best execute that. So you'll see here I have a few different colors, all right? So we have some purple marker, some red marker, and then down here you'll see some blue. And so we just color coordinate this to make it easy on us. So all of the purple things are herbs and flowers. All of the red are vegetables that we are growing on our farm, and everything in blue is for a plant sale. So these are all starts that we plan on selling. And so we are going to be starting these or up potting these into different containers, and that's just something that we will need to know, all right? So I'm going to walk through one of these with you guys. The crops that we're starting on January 20th are lavender, eucalyptus, orange thyme, echinacea, and rutabaga. I'm going to be starting all of these in mini blocks, but you can see that there are a few, you know, on the lavender. I'm going to be starting 2 because the mini blocks, it's a handheld 20, so I need to start 2 of those. The eucalyptus, we're starting a lot. I need to start 100, all right? So that's quite a few of those, etc., etc. We're going to be transplanting all of these, and I'm growing these either in the cottage garden or the tunnel. All right, we keep doing this. And then let's go down here and let's see some of the stuff we're growing for the plant sale. We're all the way into March now. But my cucumbers and basil, I'm going to be starting those in 6-packs and selling those in 6-packs. Here's a little bit of free advice. If you're going to be selling plants, you really want to eliminate your labor costs as much as possible to really make sure that you are getting the most for that. And so for a lot of our things, we like to try to go ahead and start them in the same pot and container that we plan on selling them in, because that's eliminating time from me having to keep up potting them. So for our cucumbers, if we sell squash, and our basils, we go ahead and start these things in 6-pack containers, and we might have to go and prune and top, so our basils will go in and top them all. That way they're good and bushy and they're not just super leggy. But that is something to consider too. You know, maybe you don't want to up pot and you're not worried about that. Go grab you some good Bootstrap Farmer pots. We did a collaboration with them, the summer solstice. Start them in that, and that's just what you're transplanting them out in. For our farm, we are a small scale intensive farm, and so we are doing things a little bit different. We're doing a lot of high yields, we're doing a lot of successions, and so we might be doing things and modeling things a little bit different that you might not have to do for your small garden. Another thing that is great about this system that just makes it so easy to follow and super easy to implement, say I can't seed one of these days. Maybe my husband needs to start seeds for me, all right? If you've ever been in a situation where you're the only one that takes care of your garden, you're like, oh snap, I don't know, let me rummage through some seeds and figure out when I need to start things today. What happens if you get sick? What happens if you have vacation? Maybe you want to go out of town for the weekend. I have this to where anyone, my husband, a friend, my neighbor, they could literally come to my farm. I'm gonna have everything in a photo container briefcase labeled with the date. They're gonna know exactly what they need to grab. They're gonna know exactly how many, and then it's just everything is written out for them. So this gives me freedom, although I do most of the seed starting. There are some weekends written down here. I'm going to be out of town for various reasons. Someone else is going to have to start my seeds for me. But it isn't complicated. I've written it all out for them. They literally just have to read and follow. And so I really encourage you guys to try this seed starting system. I am convinced it's the best system I've ever had. You don't have to overcomplicate it, but I am convinced that you have to have a system in place to be successful in your garden. So I hope that this one helps you guys out. But thanks for hanging out with me. I'll talk to you soon.